next guest, we're bringing on two guests, actually, Chad and Dustin Griffith from Colorado. Not a lot of time between sessions. We're moving quick, 30-minute sessions. We're trying to pack as much content in here as we can. And hopefully you find that one thing that's going to change your 2021 business. Chad, Dustin, I'm bringing you on, guys. How's it going?
What's going on, pal?
Hey, Zach. How are you, man?
Doing great. I'm super pumped that you guys could join us.
Thanks for having us.
So I think you guys were talking with Brian the other day, right? And he was what Brian told me is he's like looking at your numbers, looking at your progress, and he said, "Man, we got to share some of this with our community." So you guys are having a pretty good year, then, it sounds like.
Yeah, we are. It's a record year for our entire team, which is just crazy. Like a lot of people have been talking about, 6 months ago is you had no idea what this year was going to shape up to be like. But, we just kept on focusing on, real estate is essential. People still have needs. And certainly it's been a very challenging year with COVID and how we run our business. But yeah, man, we're having an unbelievable year. We're hitting records. I think we're going to be, we'll probably be up about 30% from our high, which was 2 years ago.
I've a lot of people I was talking with yesterday too. They said, I actually had a printed out business plan 2020. And when everything hit, I crumpled it up and I threw it in the trash, like physically threw it in the trash. And then he said he went and fished it out a little while later, something like that. But I'm hearing that story a lot because the people who kept their mind in it, just kind of one day at a time kept pushing, they're actually having pretty awesome years, right? So
yeah.
It was a nice surprise.
A little background on the both of you and who you are, and we can jump into some more stuff.
I'll let you take it, Dust.
What was your question?
Sorry that we're in two different places here, so
yeah,
we couldn't be together. But
Dustin, maybe just introduce yourself and where you guys are coming from, a little bit of background on your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dustin Griffith, older brother of younger brother Chad here. We've been in business for about 7 years. We've had our Griffith home team set up. I've been licensed for 15. Had a few years in the K-Dub world. We obviously went to Remax about 2.5 years ago, moved the team over. We spent about 4.5 years with Berkshire Hathaway when we first launched our team. Obviously both Colorado natives, grown up here our entire life. Love it to death. And obviously, like I said, the team is really growing. And like I said, we're doing pretty good for given our circumstances.
And just a little bit about the team, Zach. We have 18 agents, including Dustin and I. Everyone's full time, and then we have 2 full-time support staff. Okay. So far this year, we are. I'm pulling up in the app right now, the Sisu app, so I can tell you we've closed and under contract 333 units for $159 million. So I think we're going to land probably.
Do you want to share that screen real quick, Chad? Oh, it's on your phone. Nice, even better. Look at that. Looks good.
That's why we love Sisu. Everyone's got the app, and then obviously you have the desktop version too.
Yeah.
But we definitely live and breathe Sisu. We actually it was last year out in Omaha where we obviously met you guys at the Jeff Cohn's event. And, we were thinking about using Sisu for about a year prior to that, and we just never pulled the trigger. And then once Brian did his presentation, this business, when you lead a big team like we have, it's all about accountability. And that's exactly what Sisu does. It holds our agents accountable because we rank everything. You can see what everyone's doing. And it sells. It's sales environment, right? We're competitive, and you don't want to be at the bottom, right? You want to be at the top. So Sisu allows us to do that. So awesome. It's been great. We have, now we've been on it for about 18 months, but we uploaded all of 2019's data in there, and then obviously now we'll have almost a full year's here. So once you start to get all that data, you start to quantify it, and it starts to paint a pretty cool story or picture of why some people are having the success that they have versus other agents that are not.
And it also quickly makes you realize too, if you're trying something and it's not working, then it's time to pull the plug and quickly change focus to a different avenue.
Yeah.
Especially like on lead flow. I mean, obviously our team, we're big on internet leads. And so CSU for us is a quick way of, pulling a report, analyzing numbers. If it works, keep trucking. If it doesn't, pull the money back and try to allocate it somewhere else. So that's probably the biggest piece for us on the accountability piece, is just from a business management standpoint of just kind of keeping track of what the heck's going on. I mean, where Chad and I are different than most teams, we still produce.
Right.
So we're not your typical team lead. We're just the CEO, grinding on the back office. I mean, so we're kind of wearing two hats of producer and CEO. And so, I think we do run a pretty good ship. We could tighten things up a little bit on the accountability front, but overall, I mean, the CSU app really kind of helps us stay in line when things kind of get busy and we kind of lose track a little bit. So
maybe walk me through a little bit, like you guys are doing a lot of internet leads. What are the systems and processes from a lead generated through to closing?
Well, I mean, obviously the internet lead bucket in itself is one giant bucket, but we're big players in Zillow.
Okay.
So we kind of, Zillow leads are a little bit different than your normal, your pay-per-click leads, if you will. So we definitely do kind of classify them a little bit differently. We run all of our Zillow leads out of the Zillow app.
Kind of have to, right?
Yeah, it's forced.
Stuff is in Boomtown. But the general theme across the board with those is that we try to do, 7 to 10 reach outs in a 10-day period.
Okay.
Right. And so between the Boomtown and obviously the Zillow stuff, I mean, again, that's just kind of our baseline of what we try to do. Executing 10 reach outs on 300 plus leads a month is sometimes a daunting task, but that's what we try to lay the foundation of. So it does vary a little bit.
I was just going to add, I know a lot of people who, because they can connect their CSU or whatever they're tracking with to their CRM and then run ratios like that, right? Here's how many of X lead type you received versus how many calls or dials you made. And then they'll run those ratios. And if the ratios are a little low, well, then they're just going to cut back the lead flow a little bit, right? I think Boomtown has some routing tools you can use to divvy up leads. And hear a lot of people doing that. And you basically give this agent the option of, okay, if you can handle more leads, if you can keep those calls to leads ratios up, then we're going to just keep feeding you more, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah. And that's exactly how we manage it too, Zach. I mean, that's how we do it. And then, they know how many leads they're going to get roughly. And, we'll cap them if, we have our expectations. If they don't hit it, we just hit the button and it turns them off, and you cut off their food source for, sometimes we'll cut it off for a month or even longer until they get caught up on all their calls.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How often are you auditing that, like in weekly meetings, or is it like a monthly audit? Like how frequently are you looking at those numbers and adjusting?
Probably about every other week.
Okay.
Like Zillow stuff's a little bit different because they've changed their model so much. So now it's a lot of that. It's the direct connections.
Yeah.
So I really watch. We pretty much cap each agent at no more than 4 connections per month. But our expectations are to close those at 25% though. Yep. So if I give you 4, you better close 1. Mm-hmm. And so we set those expectations, and then we have certain price points. I mean, the ones that are million plus, they only go to a select few agents that are, that we feel are confident to handle those leads. So.
Love it. Yep. Anything else? I got a couple questions here I wanted to ask you guys, but if you wanted to add anything else on the tracking front, I'm happy to dive into that. One thing, Dustin, this is hope you don't mind me bringing this up. I remember when we spoke back at Jeff Cohn's Summit, me and you connected because you actually played professional baseball, right? Back in the day.
Yep.
And I instantly thought, oh man, well, baseball player, we love to geek out on all the stats. And it's like, I remember I used to keep a little book with all my numbers in it, right? Like the baseball thing, right?
You have to.
Yeah. And that if you can translate that into real estate, and, you know, obviously it's different, but having that, I guess, thirst to know your numbers and improve them and have something to measure yourself against, I think it's huge, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're only as good as our last, right? You're only as good as your last outing, right?
Yep.
And in real estate, we're only as good as our last, you know, whatever day, week, whatever you want to call it. So, like I said, we've got room to grow on our end for Chad and I, you know, with the accountability. I mean, I'd say we probably follow, you know, Sisu 75% of it, right? I mean, we're not 100% using like every category, every feature.
There's a lot in there too.
Yeah, but with what we're tracking for us, it's a good middle ground to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, but we also don't get down a road where, you know, it's going to end badly, right? When it comes to like the accountability and obviously the lead flow and of course budget, right? I mean, I think when you're running a team, it's you have to adapt a little bit to new things, right? And don't be afraid to try a different lead source or do whatever, but you also have to be very quick to pull the plug and move on to something else. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing we took away from when we first met Jeff Cohn. Geez, I don't even know, 6 years ago now at this point, 7 years ago, was he's just, you know, try something. If it works, keep trucking. If it doesn't, then pull the plug. And I think he's kind of helped us out with that piece too, with just quickly analyzing it. And before Sisu, we frankly didn't know really our numbers, to be honest with you. I mean, we obviously knew how many leads we drove in for the year. And obviously, we have our end of year stats with closing, but until Sisu came along, we really didn't know down to an actual lead source and lead source versus agent lead count, what we were really doing, you know? And so it's really helped us kind of fine tune, you know, our skill set as owners and leaders to, you know, just kind of keep things a little more organized. So.
Yeah, there's this idea. Go ahead. Chad.
Well, I was just gonna say the other thing that we do track on here, Zach, what I love, and I'll show it on here on the app. So we track all the agents' activity. So every day at 6 o'clock, they get a notice from the Sisu app to update their activity. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's conversations or connections, number of dials, text messages, hours worked, hours prospected, appointments set, days in the office. So we like to track that. This year's obviously much different with that. And then pre-qual sent to our lenders, and then handwritten notes. So they just use the app every day and they plug in what their activity was for that day. Or if they miss, if they miss a day, then they could just catch up on it. We have some of the agents that will track it all on a worksheet on a piece of paper, and then once a week they'll update their numbers. But this is great because you see the activity of the agents, and there is no doubt it is 100% correlated. The more activity, the more they produce. And if you look at our leaders on their team and you look at their activity, those two they're directly correlated versus the others. So I love that aspect of Sisu. Granted, you get a lot of that. It'll pull from Boomtown, but there's, Boomtown doesn't track, did you show up? Did you go in the office today? How many hours did you prospect, et cetera? So I just want to share that. That's another thing that we use. That's powerful tool for us.
I think there's two lines of thought too when it comes to tracking in general. And if you read, I think one of the best sales books out there is Fanatical Prospecting, Jeb Blount. It's an awesome one. And this guy, I mean, he has these huge sales teams and he has all the money in the world to put into Salesforce and all these systems and everything like that. But he still has all of his reps manually reporting numbers every single day, right? Where it could be automated, it's actually good. In his mind, he says, look, I've done automated, and I'm not saying it's different for everybody. And I think automated tracking is awesome too, but there is a case to be made for manual tracking. And his whole point was, look, if I am sitting down every day and I'm thinking about these numbers and I'm tracking my calls as I go in whatever system that is, paper or Sisu or whatever it is, I'm a lot more mentally focused on those things because I'm tracking them all day, right? Where sometimes I sit down and I spend an hour in Boomtown, or I spend an hour in my CRM, and I think I've made 150 calls, but when we actually dig into the numbers, there's, I made 17, right? You tend to exaggerate that number in your head, right? Where if you have something visual or something that you're tracking, or a scoreboard or a leaderboard or a monitor somewhere that's showing you as that progress is going in real time, you're a lot more grounded in reality because you tend to exaggerate that in your head, those numbers in your head a lot, right? It's a pretty common thing. So
yeah, 100%.
Love that you guys do that. So wanted to ask you something here. A lot of people we're talking to, there were shifts and changes that they had to make in 2020 or that they want to make going into the new year. Is there a shift or something that changed in your business that you feel like made a difference?
Man, I feel like we've been business as usual. It's different because we're doing, we do our weekly meetings virtually, just like everyone else. We haven't got together as a team since February. But we've been business as usual. I mean, we make our phone calls, we reach out, we connect. We're in flow with our team. I also know every market's different too. I mean, we're in Denver, and Denver is going to be the best year yet in real estate for most brokers, or I would say the full-time brokers. And we've just it's been challenging. I mean, it's been really, really challenging, right? Especially with how you conduct, how you list the homes and the showings, and all showings are exclusive showings. There's no overlapping, and so there's a lot of those challenges. You have a lot more paperwork with COVID, et cetera. But in terms of the actual process and everything that we do, I mean, I don't think we've changed anything. I mean, we've literally been business as usual, and everyone's kicking butt, working from home, and having challenges at home, right? Because you're a parent, you're a teacher, and you're a full-time agent, you're a spouse, et cetera, right? But we just haven't made any excuses. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that when COVID happened, and there's a lot of uncertainty. It was scary. You didn't know what this was going to look like. But you know what? We just said, there's no excuses. We can't control the situation. We can't control the law and regulations that are going to come out, right? And just control what we can control, and that's activity, that's reaching out to your sphere. I mean, what a great time to reach out, to connect, and just say, hey, how are you guys doing? Man, we're a shit show at our house. How are you guys doing? And just being real. But I don't know. I mean, Dustin, what would you add anything? Have we done anything different?
I mean, I would say the beauty of what we're going through is everyone's in the same boat, right? So, I think we've just made the best of what we've had to deal with, right? And I think I think our agents have done a very good job about not making this a 5-month vacation sitting at home, right? I mean, everyone is still trying to execute their plan. I think everyone on our team, as far as agent count, they're the breadwinners, right? And so they're just at home, business as usual, grinding out. Again, processes have changed a little bit, but I don't think we've really done much of anything. I mean, hell, if you look back in February, I think we've added more money to our ad budget than we have at any point in time in the last 7 years of our team, as far as just the increment bump.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
A lot of people cut their budgets.
Yeah,
they were freaking out, and I get it. I mean, Dustin and I were worried, right? There was a lot of uncertainty. You didn't know what was this year going to look like, right? And when you run a big team like we do, there's a lot of overhead, right? But we just said, you know what? We trusted that real estate is essential. It's going to be there. I mean, my God, if you were a buyer and you hated living in your apartment pre-COVID, you really hated it because you were stuck, right? Everyone's circumstances are different. But you move for a reason because you have pain of some sort. You're selling your house for a reason because you have pain of some sort. That never changed. And in fact, COVID probably just made that worse. So we decided we're going to increase our budget. Everyone else is going to go down. We're going to increase it because everyone's going to be online, and the internet leads have been the best that they've ever been this year. And I think it's because people have had so much time sitting down on their phones, scrolling through photos, dreaming of that new house.
Mm-hmm.
So
that tells me, I mean, you guys probably had a pretty solid routine pre-COVID, and you just kind of rolled with it. I mean, what does a week look like for you guys as far as meetings, as far as like check-ins, coaching? What's your kind of weekly routine?
Well, we typically do team meetings every Tuesday.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, we would do 2 meetings via Zoom, and then we would flip-flop our meetings north and south.
So you were already doing some virtual meetings pre.
Yeah, at the time it was actually just we were using the conference line, you know, doing a quick phone call just to check in and say hello, and then now we've obviously gone full on Zoom for it, and then just doing some, trying to do some one-on-one weekly accountability on Wednesdays, with each agent one-on-one, and then again everyone else, throughout the other 5 days or 6 days left. I mean, everyone's just kind of on their own program, trying to squeeze in their routine. The only thing we kind of really harp on day in and day out is just trying to fit in an hour or 2 of prospecting.
Okay.
Right. And then outside of that, I mean, again, they're, at the end of the day, they're running their own show. So we just try to give them some tools and let it roll,
I love it, Kat.
Pretty good.
I think that's great. Yeah, that routine. I mean, just the stability week through week. If you're already doing it, if you're used to prospecting for an hour, that routine almost becomes like a harbor. When things start going crazy or when things are bad, it's just like stick to the routine, right?
It's your safety net.
Yep.
But I think the agents that get in trouble are the ones that don't have a routine, and then COVID happens, and you have to balance home life versus work life. I mean, you've got to be somewhat dedicated to time blocking. I don't know if any agent is really perfect at time blocking, but I think if you can manage it, if you can manage time blocking 4 out of 7 days a week, I think you're going to survive and be just fine.
I mean, look at the best of the best in anything, whether that's an athlete, whether that's a speaker like a Tony Robbins or any of these guys. They've got these crazy routines, right? Baseball players that they won't step on the line as they go out onto the field. It's like everything is just so dialed, and a lot of these things that put you in the right state, that put you in the right mindset, they're not really tactical. They're more about getting yourself prepared, getting yourself in the mindset, right? Things like prospecting, things like that weekly meeting, whatever it is. And if you can help your agents fall into a routine like that, like you guys have, big things happen, big shifts happen, but it's like, just stick to the routine and keep rolling with it, right?
Basic stuff, right? Like get up in the morning, take a shower, get dressed,
brush your teeth,
act like you're going to work, even though you're working from home, but at least try to get up and get on with the day and prep yourself mentally that you're still going to work.
Yeah. I know a lot of teams that started doing, when they moved virtual, they didn't want to eat up everyone's time right in the morning, but they want to do 15 minutes, everyone on a video call. You got points in their contest or whatever if you actually showed up. And the whole point of it was, let's just hold each other accountable to sticking to that routine we know is going to put us in the mindset so we can go out and perform day in, day out. 15-minute huddle, boom, right into prospecting, and they're all blowing up Slack about it, right? Like that's how you create momentum even when you're not with somebody. Right?
Yep.
100%, man.
Yep.
I love it. Make no excuses.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking away from this. I think you guys have done an awesome job. Congrats.
No excuses and consistency. You do those 2 things, people are going to find a lot of success in this business.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we're gonna wrap this one up. I am gonna take a quick water break. 30, 60 seconds here. We got a big session coming up next with Mr. Robbie T. Everyone show some love for Robbie in the comments. I heard if he doesn't get at least like 20 or 50 comments, he won't even show up. So Dustin, Chad, thanks for coming on, guys. You guys rock. And
Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, Zach. We appreciate it, man.
Yep, we'll see ya.
Take care.